I'm Alex.
And I'm Shane.
And this is the RPM podcast.
And welcome back to our final launch reaction show. Today, we're going to be talking about the Ferrari, the SF21 in all its glory. We're going to discuss the team launch and the actual car launch. There were two separate things. So we're going to talk about the launch program itself, what we learned, the car, what we know's changed, what they've promised, what they've guaranteed us in the future of this year, and just all the good bits. If you've tuned in for the first time, we've done the last 9 car launches, so be worth listening to those, and you'll get the idea of where this podcast is going. So, without further ado, Alex, over to you.
So 2020 saw Ferrari hit their lowest finishing position in the Constructors' Championship since 1980, and there's no denying how bad it looked for the Italian team out there sometimes, but only a fool would think that they'd stay there for long, surely, with the resources at their disposal. Ferrari, of course, continuing their Microsoft-like tradition of haphazardly naming their releases. They do sometimes go in order. We did have like the F14T in 2014, then the SF15, SF16, and they had the F2000 series at one point. But other times they just do whatever the hell they want. I remember the F150, which later had to become the 150 Italia because Ford complained. And then they broke from their F2000 naming to have the 248 F1 for no particular reason. And then they returned to the F2000 format the following year. And of course, we had the SF1000 last year. So it makes a little bit more sense this year being the SF21. Ferrari just have always named their cars in a slightly haphazard fashion. So it's nice to see it's a little bit more logical this year, at least. Maybe a sign of their slightly clearer thinking going into
maybe
the new season. So yeah, first a quick talk about the team launch, which, as you mentioned, was separate to the car launch. They were the only team to do this. Don't really know why, but they decided to do that separately. And we started off straight away in the team launch with Matteo Binotto presenting in Italian, naturally. And we had a fairly straightforward meeting with the drivers where they introduced themselves. What did you get from the actual team launch video?
I thought it was quite well constructed. Ferrari, who haven't always been about the fans and the interaction, or I wouldn't say haven't been about the fans. Ferrari fans are incredible, but their social media skills have always been very tight. They've always been very controlled. They haven't really been full of fun. But the handcuffs are off, and over the last year or two, we've seen a little bit of banter on the old Twitter and seen them interacting with other teams. And what I'm trying to get at is we had this fantastic wall of fans. That was the highlight of the team kind of reveal for me. We had this fantastic wall of massive Ferrari fans behind Carlos and Charles, which I thought was just fantastic. Apart from that, nothing really stood out for me. The drivers introduced themselves, and yeah, it was pretty straightforward.
I think it's worth mentioning that other than the slight change in social media approach, they've become a little bit more relaxed about that. Both of the launches are still pretty traditional, really. They have the expected hype, and we have the establishing shot of Maranello in both launches where they have this dramatic music where it sounds like you're Sam Fisher and you're about to break in and steal some top secret plans. Like that's the way that it's sort of pitched. But otherwise, pretty straightforward. Interviews, no live stuff, no tech demonstrations, no virtual interviews, just straightforward. Here we are. Here's the car. Here's the team, and keeping it generally, quite traditional and almost a little bit low key for Ferrari.
It was a little bit low key, but actually, after the wide range of launches we've had this year, it was almost a bit nice to have something traditional, something which felt a little bit grounding. We've had so many completely far-fetched launches. We had the AR, which didn't go ahead. We had the virtual reality with Alpine, which obviously didn't work. We've had, AlphaTauri, you had it just in a garage, which was brilliant. So this was a bit more of a, well-constructed, safe bet. It was very safe for Ferrari, and maybe that's just what they're going for this year, is playing it safe after what was an unstable year last year.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. We saw a little bit more of their more relaxed attitude, though, as well, when we had the Q&A session with the drivers where they were both speaking Italian, because of course Carlos Sainz speaks fluent Italian, as does Charles Leclerc. And they were asking the questions to each other. There was a little bit of breaking of the script where obviously they were reading out pre-written questions by Mattia Binotto, but they played with that a little bit, which was quite nice. I saw that Sainz gave a very diplomatic answer to whether or not he can beat Leclerc. But he also played up his experience quite a bit, because Sainz is obviously older and generally more experienced than Leclerc. And they mentioned Grosjean's crash as well, which I thought was interesting, and the need for the respect towards the other drivers. And it was generally a very mature showing from Sainz in his new position in Ferrari. And obviously, he's not going to... There's no sign that he's going to go into this as I'm a number 2 driver, or I'm coming into this as the new guy. He considers himself to be Leclerc's equal, if not his experienced partner.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny you touch on, they obviously mentioned Grosjean's crash in the team launch. They also referred to not necessarily the crash in the car launch, but they mentioned how they wanted to have safe, clean races in 2021. So they're really going for that, respecting other drivers on the track, trying to avoid contact. Kind of, I don't know why, it just stood out for me. I mean, I had to watch it a couple of times because it was very fast in Italian. I had to make sure I caught everything they said in that 10-minute video. But no other team has mentioned we want to have a safe, clean races in 2021. They were like, we're going to race hard, we're going to get as many points as we can. But Ferrari have gone with that safe, clean approach, which is, I don't know, it just felt refreshing. Like I said just about 2 minutes ago, it felt nice having a bit of more of a grounded presentation. It was just felt traditional, and it was a very nice way to end the launches.
Yeah, it's perhaps a call back to what happened a couple of times between Vettel and Leclerc. There was perhaps a bit of animosity growing about some contact made, and they're trying to get off on a slightly different foot perhaps. And I agree, it was nice to hear somebody actually say we want the racing to be safe and respectful. It doesn't always have to be like that. There's you want a bit of excitement and a bit of hard racing, but nonetheless, it is refreshing to hear someone actually say that and say that that's the approach that they're taking. So that was quite nice. Let's go on to the car launch video then that we had released today at the time of recording.
Yep.
This again started with our dramatic establishing shot of Maranello, Mattia Binotto presenting, again all in Italian. Just a bit of preamble about, new challenges for the year. We've got great resources, etc., etc. And then we had the actual car reveal itself straight off the bat. No messing around. Very slick, quite a typical modern car reveal. Very fast cuts, high energy style, sort of
lots of
very
bold lighting,
dubsteppy kind of music. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, very carefully constructed zooming and panning shots and the like. And then, obviously, we'll talk more about the car itself in a little bit. But just carrying on with the video, there was also some recognition of their previous success not guaranteeing future victory. And as they discussed the new power unit with the PU director, there was an air of humility, which I think is also going to be very important for Ferrari going forward into the new season.
Yeah, it was nice that they've obviously pulled on, we'll talk about the livery later on, but they've pulled on past designs, past liveries to try and bring some of that past success into the current era of Formula One. We've had the very similar conversation with another team, but unlike the other team, they weren't shying away from their poor season last year. And they mentioned that actually just because they've changed the color of their car ever so slightly, it doesn't mean they're going to be winning races. They're just trying to almost promote that winning feeling again. And I think after last year, Ferrari really do need like a bit of a morale boost, a bit of a, yes, we are Ferrari. We can produce amazing cars and we're here. Let's not be forgotten about. We've had one bad year. We've got this. We're back. We're gonna challenge for the title, or try to challenge for the title. And I love the fact that they knew that just bringing these colours across wasn't going to make them a fast car. They just wanted to bring that spirit across almost. And they made that very clear. They weren't trying to tell us that they had a fantastic car this year. Or they weren't trying to, do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. I think it's just a fact that they're Ferrari at the end of the day. Like you say, they should be fairly confident that they can push back as a major team pretty quickly. They certainly should do with the amount of resources that they've got, and that history whilst it doesn't guarantee their success, it does provide a certain blueprint for success. There's a lot of expertise in Scuderia Ferrari. So, yeah, they should go into it to some extent with their head held high. Yeah, there was a few basket case examples last season, but they still managed to come away with a reasonable number of podiums. They've got two brilliant drivers. I think they have every reason to go into it with a certain amount of confidence, as long as they said themselves, they realised that there's no guarantee of success and that they should go into it with a view to be confident but be realistic in their
They're being very
expectations.
level-headed, which I think is a fantastic approach. They're really
It's very
just
un-Ferrari.
yes, and this is why I keep on bringing it up. It's just very grounded. It's very level-headed, which is very un-Ferrari, but it's exactly what they need after last year's poor performance. And obviously, we had the whole engine being, looked into the year before, so they've had almost a year and a half of some speculation, some criticism, and maybe it's just not gone down too well. So to come out of this and be very honest, but be very brief and very level-headed, I think it's a really good approach to the 2021 season.
Well, I guess when we're looking at the launch video, we're sort of coming on to the technical PU stuff. So let's actually talk about the car itself and the technical information. Starting with, of course, the power unit. That's going to be the big one coming into the new season. Now, we did hear from their power unit director that they reckon that they have a 1/10 of a second per lap advantage. That was what he said. But he didn't say what this is compared to exactly. Is this compared to last year? Is this compared to their competitors? Do they think they are 1 second a lap faster than Mercedes? Or
I was very surprised when they put a figure on the table. I was like, blimey, that's bold. No other team has done that. And no other teams do that very often at all throughout the last couple of years. But like you said, it's in comparison to anything. Is that in comparison to qualifying times last year? Is that in comparison to overall race time? Or is that in comparison to Mercedes? I mean, as much as I like, Mercedes and what they're doing and how great their races are, if Ferrari is saying they're 1.1 of a second faster than Mercedes, I'm all for it. I'm all for a change in the top. Let's go. I'm ready for 2021. But we've got nothing to compare that against, and we won't know until the lights go out for qualifying in Bahrain.
Yeah, so it's still a little bit of an unknown factor, but very interesting that they made that specific numerical claim. Like you say, that will be under some scrutiny, I think, when things actually get going. And then we heard from their chassis director, who talked about the new transmission and suspension. It's interesting to note that in a lot of the pictures of the car and the video itself, the rear of the car is very darkened. You can't really see anything on the diffuser. You can't see anything on the rear of the floor. You can't see anything of the rear suspension. You can't see anything of the gearbox area. So they've clearly done a lot of work on the rear of the car. And the chassis director himself said that had been a big focus for them. A lot more downwashing on the bodywork at the rear. So obviously a lot of work has been done on that. But they also have a new front wing as well.
They do indeed.
So huge changes coming on that car, it looks like. As well as the new nose. They still got that wide concept, haven't they? But with a even more pinched sort of nub, as it were, on the end of the nose. It's even more pinched and complements that cape that they've got on the underside. So it's sort of change all over for Ferrari, it looks like.
They haven't been shy over the last year or what they've done into 2021. A lot of teams could have just taken a step back and just bridged the gap until the fully new regulations going into 2022. And I kind of expected Ferrari just to have a that'll do season. We'll try and increase the power. We'll try and get a better engine, but we'll just settle for third or fourth. Better than last year, but not great. But they've come out this year with a very, very different car. And I love the changes they're making. Like you said, the whole rear of the car, I couldn't tell whether I couldn't see the floor or whether the floor wasn't there. It was very well hidden. They've done a lot of work on the camera and the obviously taking these videos of hiding any details they have. And I've read a couple of things online. They're going for like a bit of a Mercedes they're going down that kind of route for their rear end of their car. And there's only so much they can do because obviously everything is governed by a token system. So they've made changes, but not drastic changes. But with the downwash and with the aerodynamics over the car as well, they've redesigned their engine, not in a necessarily in a power way, but where all the components go in that engine, to have like a more slimline engine casing to really promote that downwash, that downforce on the rear wing, to promote better, to get that car where it needs to be. So they haven't stopped developing at all. This is probably one of the most changed cars we've seen throughout the launches. Obviously, we haven't seen many cars on track at the moment, so we can't comment on who's running what. But visibly on the photographs I'm looking at now, this car has changed a lot over the last year.
That does appear to be the case. Yeah, we've already seen when they did the seat fitting video that they had a revised airbox. That's obviously confirmed with this as well. I suppose, again, we should stress these are largely renders that we've seen, certainly in the photos, or sort of mocked up photos, if you like. But the fact that they have quite obviously hid a lot of what's going on the rear of the car suggests that they're prepared to show some of it, but not all of it. Again, none of this is guaranteed until we actually see the car at testing. But yeah, it does seem to be the case that there is some real change going on in that car, and it was probably for the better, really. Like you say, you might expect them to just hold off until the regulations change and come out swinging and say, right, this is the year where we break the streak. It's going to be Ferrari back on top. But nope, they've gone for it this year as well, and good on them, I say. Like, yeah, they're Ferrari. They've got all those resources, all of that history. They really should be throwing themselves at it all the time. So it's good to see that they're doing that. Shall we move on to the livery then? We'll talk about that.
Let's move on to the livery itself.
Before we actually mention the livery, we should perhaps talk about something interesting that happened. Again, another livery has been leaked before the actual launch itself. But how they managed to do it is kind of amusing, because apparently they were able to get hold of the livery by going onto the Ferrari website and setting their computer clock forward to the time of release, which made the website... apparently the website was checking the time relative to when they would unlock whatever was happening on their website to the user's time and not the server's time.
Wow.
Which is a pretty rookie error, as any web designer or programmer would tell you, I'm sure. And people could go on the website, set their computer clock forward, and voila, there it was.
Wow. Well, I don't know what to say about that. We've had some... Well, that just summarizes this year's car releases altogether.
It just goes to show that you can be at the absolute apex of technological progress for one thing, and yet make an absolute howler on another area of technical progress. So come on, Formula One team, sort out your IT departments. They're sponsored by all these massive companies. Ferrari have got Kaspersky, and Williams have got Acronis, and all these other massive tech companies. Sort it out, guys. Yeah. Come on.
Spend some more money in your IT department, because this isn't a good look. But I had no idea it was leaked. I've been at work all day, and that's just brilliant. That's absolutely fantastic.
It's a bit embarrassing, isn't it? Like they don't even necessarily need to spend more money. They just need to be a bit more vigilant. Stop making such rookie errors.
That's the thing. It is a very, very simple error to make, isn't it? So, oh well.
So that was a bit amusing. This website was actually down for quite a bit of the launch, because they'd obviously were trying to change it. So that it would be fixed properly. So I ended up watching it on, I think I was watching it on YouTube in the end. But an amusing little start to the launch there, and another few technical issues. Right then, let's go to that livery then. So Shane, give me your thoughts. What are we looking at?
Right, do you want my thoughts, or what are we looking at? Two different questions, right?
Well, both.
I'm going to give you my thoughts. I like 70% of the car, potentially 80% of the car.
Have we got a Mercedes problem here, where it all just...
We have a slight Mercedes
like what's going
problem
on at the rear.
Right, so for those of you who aren't watching on YouTube, where we have the cars flash up every 30 seconds, a new image of the car comes up. Let me describe to you how the Ferrari looks. It's very similar to last year. However, they've added some burgundy to the rear of the car. Remember the Italian Grand Prix where they had a burgundy car? They basically...
Was that...
Mugello, wasn't that?
Mugello, that's where it was.
That's the one. It was at Mugello. So Mugello had a burgundy car, which looked pretty cool, don't get me wrong. And they've basically taken the rear end of that car and kept the colour, which I kind of like. I think it looks quite nice. I mean, for Ferrari to do something different is a little bit unheard of, like to actually add a different colour to their livery, very out of the ordinary. But they've got the classic Ferrari red all the way from the front wing to where the engine is situated, and then from where the engine is situated to the rear wing, burgundy, and it blends in quite nicely. You've got the traditional sponsors. You've got Ray-Ban, UPS, Shell, Mission Win Now, V-Power. All the sponsors are pretty much in exactly the same place as last year. I've done a couple of comparisons and not much has changed. And then we've got this Mission Win Now logo on what people still refer to as the shark fin of the car. So behind the cockpit, you've got the shark fin. Obviously goes down to the rear of the car. I don't know how to describe this for those audio listeners. You've got the Mission Win Now logo, which in the past has been white, and more recently it's been black. It's now fluorescent green.
It is.
And I'm trying to keep back laughing when I look at this, and that's why I don't like it. So when I said I like 80% of the car, I like everything apart from that Mission Win Now logo, which is fluorescent green. And it's quite big, and it's very obvious, and I don't know what else to say apart from it's very un-Ferrari. And when I saw it, I was like, no, this can't be right. I mean, obviously I was watching the official Ferrari YouTube channel, so I knew this was correct. I thought, this is a mock-up. This is someone else's design. But there we have it. I've described to you the car. I've given you my opinion. I'm gonna be quiet now. Alex, what do you think of this design?
The green is an interesting choice. Putting them together, it does not look particularly good like that. But I think the reasoning behind it is probably more to do with doing what we're doing right now, which is talking about it. Because Mission Win Now is a campaign by, is it Philip Morris International? I think they're called. They're a tobacco company. And there's obviously been a lot of changes in the rules about tobacco advertising in Formula One. And some people have been able to sneak around this by putting different campaigns by the companies where they're not advertising tobacco, but the money is coming from essentially a tobacco company. But they're not advertising a tobacco product, and they're using that to kind of sneak around the regulations. But there's still a lot of countries where even that is not allowed and they have to take it off. I believe in 2019, the Mission Win Now branding wasn't present at all. And in 2020, it was missing at a lot of races. So I think what this is they've made it bright green so that lots of people talk about it and it gets lots of attention. But we're not actually going to see it on the car for most of the races, I wouldn't have thought. I would have thought that bit would just be blank like it was for most of 2020. So, yeah, I think it's probable absence for much of the season has prompted them to make it bright green so everyone will talk about it and they'll get a bunch of people discussing it, whereas that nobody would have mentioned it otherwise if they just kept it black or white. Everyone would have just said, oh, it's last year's car, but with a burgundy rear end from the SF1000 at Mugello. Make it bright green, get lots of people talking about it. It won't even be there for most of the races.
It's like they've selected one of the default colours in Photoshop. You get like 16 of the brightest.
They went to the exact opposite end of the colour wheel.
Yes, they did.
This will get people talking.
We're going to max it out. What doesn't go with red and burgundy? Fluorescent green.
Red and green should never be seen, as they say.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny how you mentioned if it was black, we wouldn't be talking about it. Just notice a Mission Win Now logo on the nose, not on the nose, but I'm looking at a side view of the car, and it's in between the side pod and the front tire, just on the edge of the car. Didn't even notice it because it was black. So actually, it being green has done exactly what it was designed to do, and we're talking about it on our podcast.
Exactly. I think that's almost certainly got to be, because aesthetically, it's a little bit of a mess, but I think that's surely got to be the reason. They know that they can't run it at every race, so make it green, get people talking about it.
We've seen some car launches this year which we've not exactly agreed with, and I didn't think Ferrari was going to be one of them, but it makes perfect strategic sense because their advertising company or their advertisement department or their media department has done exactly what they needed to do and got everyone talking about this green Mission Win Now logo. Now, just while we're on the topic of the livery, it's not actually the livery itself, but I quite like that during the presentation, we had 55 on the rear of the car for Carlos, and we had 16 on the nose of the car for Charles. And I don't know if this is correct or not, but I don't remember any other team this year having split numbers on their car. It was either one number or the other. And actually, I thought that was a very nice touch from Ferrari. Wasn't surprised because in their first 5 or 6 minute Italian presentation, they mentioned how the drivers are already bonding together. They're sharing data after going in the simulator. How they are the perfect team already. They're working really well, and it's a great family. It's a great atmosphere. It's funny how they use the word atmosphere because they've had a lot of criticism in the last year because of their relationship with Sebastian Vettel, and obviously we don't know the ins and outs of it. And when Vettel writes his book, I'm sure a lot of us will purchase it and find out what was going on behind closed doors. But Vettel left under uncertain terms. He made no secret of it. But to mention how well the team's performing at the moment and how harmonizing they are and how smooth everything's going, I thought they're just trying to slowly claw back the respect from the people like me and you who, we're Ferrari fans. Everyone's a Ferrari fan, but we're also McLaren fans. We're primarily McLaren fans, but we like to see Ferrari do well because it's a team sport at the end of the day. But I thought that was very interesting.
With Ferrari, it's because they're so emblematic, aren't they? They are the red car.
Ferrari.
Everyone thinks of the red car when they think of.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think I would describe myself as a Ferrari fan, but yeah, it's definitely an iconic element of the sport. They're the most successful team in Formula One history.
I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but do you reckon in 20, 30 years' times we'll be like, oh, there's that classic Mercedes, that dominant Mercedes we had in the early 2000s?
Oh yeah, that black Mercedes will be iconic, definitely.
Do you reckon that will be as iconic as Ferrari? They've been very successful.
Foretell the future, but it's the car that Lewis Hamilton equaled Michael Schumacher's record in. I can't see that being anything other than iconic.
And beat it in 2021.
That does seem pretty likely, doesn't it? But we'll see. We'll see.
Find out in 7 months' time.
One thing I will say about the livery, though, is I kind of wish that they'd gone all out and made it the classic burgundy, make the whole thing that colour, like they did for the. I quite liked it, I thought it was a nice colour change.
Yeah.
But yeah, the fade to the burgundy it's all right. It's okay. I think my opinions on the livery as a whole are that it's all right. We're not going to see that green mission win now thing there for much of the races. So that doesn't really bother me. Otherwise, it's last year's car with a burgundy rear end, and yeah, it's fine. It's a Ferrari. All right, there it is. What do you think of the Ferrari SF21? Anything that we've missed? Any opinions that you have on it? Do send us your thoughts and any questions to us at RacePerMinute on Twitter, or you can get in touch at RacePerMinute.com. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, you can comment below. If you did enjoy the episode, then you can give us a rating or a like wherever you're getting the episode. And if you really like what we do, then please consider subscribing for more wherever you're getting Race Per Minute. And if you really want to support the show, the best way to do that is to go to patreon.com/raceperminute, where for as little as £1 per month, you can help us keep the quality content coming and to get your hands on some nice rewards. Chat with us on Discord, watch races and the like with us. And we got merch. We'll give you shout outs and all the rest of it at the start of the video. Lots to look at on there. And it just helps keep the show going in a way that is not quite as obnoxious, I would like to think, because it would be very easy for us to pepper it with ads and all the rest of it. And we want to try and avoid that if we can. So Patreon is the best way to support the show. Once again, patreon.com/raceperminute. So that's it, Shane. That's all of the launches for 2021. It's almost a bit of a shame that we've come to an end.
Yeah, we've had some great discussions over the last week. We've had some interesting liveries, some great reveals. We've had some fantastic launches, and we've had some not so fantastic launches. But at the end of the day, Alex, launches don't score your points.
Nope.
Good presentations or PowerPoints do not score your points. But what do score your points is a fast car, and we get to see these cars potentially not going their fastest. We'll have some sandbagging. We'll have some very reserved, heavy fuel running. But it is testing week. We're currently recording this on the 10th of March. And I don't know if you can see me on YouTube, but I've got this massive grin on my face because testing is finally here. And I can't wait. 3 days of testing, very limited running, especially for the rookies coming into the season. Oh, can't wait. What are you most looking forward to?
I think I'm looking forward to most seeing who kind of plays the most mind games. That's always a bit of fun when it comes to testing. See who's trying to throw a bit of spanner in the works. Maybe we'll get some big surprises performance-wise. I think that probably will be the case in both the midfield and the sort of lower third of the grid. I think we might be seeing a bit of a shake-up there. Certainly hope we do. And yeah, you can expect more coverage from us all the way through testing. After that, I guess that'll be something of a break. We'll bring you some more virtual races and the like before the 28th or even before that, the 26th,
Mm.
which is when we finally end up in Bahrain and the season begins again. It's really not that far away, is it? It's really come up
so
quick,
close. It's so close, and I'm
wait.
so happy.
So yeah, do join us for that. Thanks for joining us. Do go back and listen to the previous episodes if you haven't heard our other launch reactions before. And we will see you again very soon for pre-season testing.
See you later.